Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. It's the hazy dog days of summer. They're going out with a whimper like they do every year. It will soon be the end of baseball season. I know this
Correct.
is your favorite time of year.
It is my favorite.
You are the big baseball fan of this duo.
I am the baseball fan. This is usually my favorite time of the year because at least one of my two favorite teams is doing well. They are not this year, so it's kind of like for the rest of the baseball season. But I do love October baseball, so I will start watching the playoffs even though my teams aren't in it. It's also decorative gourd season, motherfuckers.
She showed me a pumpkin.
It's out. They're out.
She doesn't care how hot it is. Bring that pumpkin spice latte to her.
Dude, it's pumpkin spice season, y'all. I'm here for it. All the decorative gourds are out here, and then November 1st, the tree's going up. I don't care what you say. It's happening here, folks. It's holidays from here on out.
Well, if this is your first time listening to us, we normally don't talk about home decorations or seasonal things. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the president.
President.
Boy, that was a slip. To the present. And we are on the social media. We have a basic Facebook page. That's where people usually go to complain about our language. We do use salty language in this program.
Fuck yeah.
So that's your warning. We do have a private Facebook group if you want to join, and that's where you and I are the most interactive with our fans, listeners, people that kind of sort of like us. All that stuff.
All that stuff.
You do have to answer a few questions to come on in, but it's a nice place to hang out. We're on Twitter at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, just give us your address and we will drop them in the mail for you wherever you are on the planet of Earth. Mm-hmm. Wherever you are, we will send them to you. Put that on a laptop or on your, we have magnets. You can put that on your fridge.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, show your loyalty to the show. That would be amazing. And Sonia, why don't you tell them about the website real quick?
Yeah. You could go to whatacreeppodcast.com. It's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes, including our show notes, because we research every single episode and we give credit to all the reporters that do all of our dirty work. So please go ahead and check those out. There's also a link to our merch shop where you can get tote bags and face masks and t-shirts. Somebody ordered a t-shirt last week. They're very comfy, by the way. I've bought a couple for myself. They're great. My son wears his. He loves them. He loves his Margot and Mommy shirts. They're real cute. And there's a link to our Patreon page. Want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, we have our first few seasons up behind on that Patreon wall. It helps us pay for all these news sites that we subscribe to. It pays for the hosting costs for the show. I want to thank Ladisha, and I hope that I pronounced that correctly. If I'm not wrong, please accept my forgiveness or my apologies, excuse me. Allison, I want to thank Christine, who's been a fan of the show for a long time, and also to Victor, who always is really responsive to our Patreon posts because we put out 2 bonus episodes as well. And then Sonia writes a really awesome newsletter, and I'm going to think that maybe you're going to be talking about Mercury in retrograde happening in September.
Yeah, I am.
Newsletter, because that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, we're going to have our What a Creep horoscopes every month in the newsletter now. So check your inboxes this weekend. It usually goes out the first week of every month. And, but sometimes it goes straight to spam too. So check your spam folder.
Check your spam.
Spam. I don't like spam.
And if money is tight, we totally understand that. If you can just leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be great. And we want to please, we really want to thank 3210 for leaving us a 5-star review. That really helps us. When we were calling them the Butthurt Brigade, that gets upset about our topics.
Yes. How come we never talk about Alex Baldwin? I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is, Reed. Who's Alex Baldwin?
By the way, we talked about Alec Baldwin and Bill Clinton in the past and a bunch of Democrats, just so you know.
We did an episode on John Edwards.
Yeah.
And people are like, you never do Democrats. I'm like, oh, yeah, we do.
And believe me, we got a bunch on the list. We're equal opportunity going after creepers.
For sure.
And let's get right into the show today. Sonia, who is our creep this week?
We are going to be talking about Pete Rose. He was in the news recently. I felt like it was time for us to talk about it. Also, like I said, 'tis baseball season, and it's almost over. So let's get into it. Do you know anything about Pete Rose?
He was at the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
And he steal bases? That was his thing?
Is one of his things.
Okay.
We're going to get into it. So, Pete Rose, sources for this episode: Associated Press, Bleacher Report, Brittanica, Deadspin, ESPN, Jezebel. The Philadelphia Inquirer has a couple of good stories about him, the Washington Post, and Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. So, Pete Rose was also known as Charlie Hustle.
Oh, yes.
He was a former professional baseball player and Major League Baseball manager. He played in the MLB from 1963 to 86. He was on the Cincinnati Reds, you were correct, and they were one of the top teams of the 70s. They had the nickname the Big Red Machine. They were just dominant in the 70s. He was a huge star in the MLB. He was named Player of the Decade by the Sporting News.
We should say, sorry, that means Major League Baseball.
Yes.
For those of you outside the States.
Sorry, yes. MLB is Major League Baseball. He also played for the Philadelphia Phillies for a while. He played for the Montreal Expos for a while. And in 1985, he exceeded Ty Cobb's record for career hits. Ty Cobb is a creep. We will talk about him someday.
He's on our list.
Pete Rose also managed the Reds from 1984 to 1989. Here's a few stats for the sports fans, okay? Because I'm not going to spend a ton of time like rattling off like all of his achievements, but here's some good stats. Rose was a switch hitter. He is an all-time MLB leader in hits. MLB switch hitter. I know. Okay, everyone, get your giggles out because it's going to come up a few times. He's a switch hitter. All-time MLB leader in hits. That's 4,252.
Still?
Yes.
Wow.
He's played, he's a leader in games played, at bats, singles, the outs that he's got. He's won 3 World Series, 3 batting titles. He won Most Valuable Player one year. He's won 2 Golden Globe. I almost said Golden Globes, Golden Gloves. He didn't win any Golden Globes. And a Rookie of the Year award. He's been at the All-Star Game 17 times, and he is unequaled in that he played 5 positions. This is unheard of. People don't do this anymore in baseball. So he played first, second, and third base, left field, and right field.
Wow. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that one either. I knew about I knew that he was big on stealing bases and stuff like that, but I didn't.
Lots of pictures of him flying through the air.
Yes.
Like Superman.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a big deal. Pete Rose was a big deal, which is why it was a big deal when he got banned for life from Major League Baseball for gambling. This happened in 1989, and he's been credibly accused of having sex with girls as young as 14. at the height of his baseball fame, he's a creep. So let's get into it. Peter Edward Rose Sr. was born April 14th, 1941 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's one of 4 children to Henry Francis Pete and Laverne Rose. Pete Rose's father played semi-pro football in Cincinnati, and he pushed his son into sports. Like, he was like, I'm into sports, and now you are. So he started playing baseball at 8 years old, and at his father's insistence, he learned to be a switch hitter. Sorry, I don't want to giggle every time. But which, if you don't know what switch hitting is, other than sex, it's when you can bat either left-handed or right-handed. So,
and hitting a ball is one of the toughest things to do in sports.
Yes, it looks easy. We're all like, we could totally do it. When a ball comes by you at 100 miles per hour, it's really hard. Right. So, Pete Rose's dad was really tough on him. You know, he said his father would refuse to feed him dinner if his team lost.
Jesus.
Yeah. And even if Pete Rose had like a good game personally, his dad was like, no, and would not feed him dinner.
Jesus.
I know. I'm like, that's fucked up.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. He played both football and baseball in high school, but he got kicked off those teams because of his poor grades, which is a thing they still do in high school. Like, if you dip below a C average, most likely you can't play high schools. Yeah. And that's why some athletes get bare minimum grades. Like, teachers just pass them so they can keep playing sports. But so he got removed from those teams, but he started playing in a Dayton like amateur baseball team. He's playing with grown men, and he's a teenager, where he still hit like 500 against grown men. So that's like really high. His uncle worked as a scout for the Reds and pleaded his case, and the Reds signed Pete Rose to a $7,000 contract when he graduated high school in 1960. He was 18.
Wow. That's really good money then.
It was.
Yeah.
And he played for 3 seasons in the minor leagues. And then in 1963, he moved up to the show, y'all. Yeah. He got to play on the major league team. And he just, like I said, dominant, just fucking killed it. He had like a stellar first season. He was named the National League Rookie of the Year. And the hits just keep on coming. Like, he led the league in like batting like 68, 69, 73. He was part of the Big Red Machine. The Reds team won 5 division titles, 4 National League pennants. This probably means nothing to people who don't know shit about sports. And they won the World Series in 75 and 76. They were super huge. He got that nickname Charlie Hustle because of exactly what you were talking about, the aggressive base running and the like sliding into base head first. And he was real aggressive about it. A lot of players do that now. That was not a thing back then. It was kind of his thing.
Yeah.
So like I said, during his 24 seasons, he played like every position. And by the time he retired as a player, this would have been 86, he had the most hits, most game plays, most times at bat. He had an incredible run.
Did he ever get injured? I mean, I would think, or no major injuries. I mean,
no major injuries.
Wow, that's
also unheard of. Like,
right.
Yeah. So
because they play a lot of games in a season.
Yeah. So baseball seasons are 161 games. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, we all think baseball's kind of
slow, boring.
Yeah. I don't. I get why people think that. It doesn't feel taxing, right? It's not like football. It's not like high impact, but people get hurt. There's the running. Sometimes you hit other players. You're sliding into bases. I'm like, have you tried sliding into base? That shit's fucking hard.
It's
like,
also
and it hurts.
The swinging on your shoulders. It's really brutal on your shoulders and elbows.
Yeah. Sports takes its toll. I mean, it's not some of these players get concussions. They get hit with pitches. You know, there's definite problems with all sports, by the way.
Right.
So he had an incredible run, and he's a creep, but he was an amazing baseball player. I get it. He was a manager of the Reds in 1989, that's when it was revealed that he had a gambling problem, like a really bad one. And he was betting even on his own team, which is
where the problem is. And
yes.
And we make this clear. Having an addiction doesn't make you a creep. Drugs,
correct.
Alcohol, sex, or gambling.
Yes. Yes. And if he wanted to bet on football, this would not be a problem. But he was betting on baseball and specifically betting on his own team. So the MLB, Major League Baseball, hired a lawyer named John Dowd to investigate the allegations against him. And he concluded that Pete Rose had bet on baseball games, including at least 50 of his own games, like that he was managing. Yeah. And at minimum, he was betting like $10,000 a day on these games, like on a single game. Obviously a huge deal when you can control the outcome of the games you're betting on because he is coaching. We could probably do a whole episode about like the game fixing scandal that happened in 1919. It was the Black Sox. Well, they called them the Black Sox, where they threw the World Series. And there's a movie about it called Eight Men Out. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Netflix has a documentary. Did you see it? It's out right now, and it's about basketball, and it's a referee that was fixing games. It just came out this week, and it's really
will watch.
Good. Yeah, and it's a Philly guy, and he was a referee that was gambling and was fixing games.
Oh man, I fucking love sports documentaries.
Yeah, same here. And the thing, I mean, you're putting millions of dollars at stake, but you're also putting the players at stake. I mean, their lives and their careers and their health. You know, some of them, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it seems like not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And it is a very big deal to other players and other coaches, like other people. And so, and we did, by the way, we also did a whole episode about the Houston Astros cheating too. So, because I am such a dork for baseball. So feel free, go back and listen to that one. So in August 1989, Pete Rose gets banned for life from baseball. Like, this has happened like just a few other times. Like, this is not a common thing. Not only is he banned for life from baseball for all of his gambling, he's ineligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he was fined $50,000, and he had to serve 5 months in federal prison because he filed false tax returns.
Oh shit! Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, and so for years, Pete Rose was like, he denied that he bet on baseball games. That was his thing. He was like, I bet on other stuff, but not baseball games. Then, 15 years later, he writes his own book called My Prison Without Bars. That's a terrible name. Terrible.
Did he go to jail? Or
yeah, I was like, there were bars. Yeah, there were bars, I assume.
Sure there were some bars someplace.
Yeah. And and then in his book, he's like, yeah, I bet on baseball. But he always insisted, like, I always bet on my team, not against my team. Like, I bet on us to win. Yeah, but and that I did yeah.
But there's signs by the way, we should say, there are signs everywhere that you're not allowed to gamble.
Yes.
In the locker room,
yes,
everywhere because of the 1919 scandal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, I didn't realize we weren't supposed to gamble.
My bad.
Yeah, no. So he was like, I didn't bet against my team. I always bet on us to win. Yeah, what's so bad? And the lawyer Dowd, who investigated him, was like, that's not true. And he had the receipts to prove it. So once again, for years, Pete Rose was like, I didn't bet against my team, but he did. And then in 2007, he does a radio interview with ESPN, and then he admits to betting on every Cincinnati Reds game while he was a manager.
Jesus.
So it's just, he lies a lot. He clearly has a gambling problem.
Right.
He probably still does, to be honest. So in his book, he's very angry that he is banned from baseball. And he claims that if he was an alcoholic or a drug addict instead of a gambler, he would be suspended and he would be back in the field like 6 weeks later.
But those
and
are
I'm
different
like,
things.
They're very different things. I'm like, you having a drinking problem isn't the same as controlling the outcome of baseball games for money.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not the same. He's applied to be reinstated to baseball multiple times. He's been rejected. He's been allowed back on the field only one other time for like an all-century team that was at like Fenway Park. And even though he's admitted to what he did, he continues to complain that he's not allowed in the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is, look, I don't know if he should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but he was an amazing player. Like, I get that, like, it's weird that, like, his stuff isn't in there, but also, I don't know, man, you broke the fucking rules. There's rules for a reason. So every year when they have their like baseball like induction ceremonies in like Cooperstown, New York, Pete Rose sets up shop outside the Hall of Fame and gives out autographs for money. Which I'm like, that's some petty shit. I kind of like it, but it's still a shitty thing to do.
You know what I say? Petty is the lane where I hit cruise control. I kind of appreciate that game.
I'm like, it's like,
I get it.
It's the kind of petty I can support.
It's the game he's been playing since he was 8. He was one of the best at it.
Yeah.
I get the arguments, but once again, it is the rule you're not supposed to break.
Yeah. I'm still like,
had one thing you weren't supposed to do. There's a million things you can gamble on, by the way.
Yes.
A million other things.
Yes.
A million other sports.
Just not this one.
Just not this one.
Yeah.
He took the risk. And, you know, it's if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
The crime.
That's what Beretta said. We'll talk about Robert Blake in a future episode, by the way.
Yes,
sure.
yes, we will.
But yeah, what's the example then? If they let him in, and then
right,
and there's a lot of players you could say, well, let him in, but just have an asterisk. Like, well, what's the point of that? That's just weird.
There's a whole thing about Barry Bonds too, as like a home run leader, and it's like, well, he was juicing at the time, so there should be like an asterisk there, and you know,
I think there should be a Juicers Hall of Fame.
There you go. I'm like, hey, if they all want to juice, maybe we need a whole separate league,
a giant syringe. No, kids, don't do this. Mark McGuire.
Yeah. Maybe we should have like a whole separate league and they could just take all the performance enhancing drugs they want and compete against each other. Like do all the mutant weird shit you want to do. And you could bet too. Just go nuts.
Just like ugly roided out pictures of like Jose Canseco.
I'll be honest, I might watch.
I would go to that. I would go to Cooperstown just to see that.
So he's still banned, by the way. But apparently gambling and betting against your own team isn't the deal breaker it used to be, because while Major League Baseball doesn't want to reinstate him, you know, sports media is a little bit more forgiving. So in April 2015, Rose joined Fox Sports as a color analyst for baseball coverage, basically. So he got a job. He's like, hey, I'm going to do this. And people were surprisingly fine with that. And I'm like, okay. Then later that year, John Dowd, the lawyer who found out that he did all this gambling, did some random radio interview in Pennsylvania. And he just kind of casually drops that Pete Rose had committed statutory rape, routinely having sex with underage girls during his baseball career. Just kind of throws it out there.
Children,
Also known as children. He claimed that Pete Rose, he had this associate named Michael Bertolini. And Michael Bertolini used to run bets for Pete Rose.
Bertolucci, by the way, he's on our list. But go on.
Oh, Bertolucci, thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I can't pronounce shit. So anyway.
But Bertolucci is the prime minister of Italy. He's the one that has all the bongo parties.
Okay.
So that's me just talking about other creeps.
Yes. So
he's probably a Democrat, Sonia, so we have to talk about it.
We have to.
Democrat, I'm a blue mug.
Oh, well then forget it. We won't talk about him then because we're so one-sided. So this this fucking creep, would run bets for Pete Rose and would help him
score chicks.
Score young girls, children. Dowd said as young as 12.
Jesus, ugh.
That's really gross.
Oh, no, I didn't know
that has never been, that one wasn't confirmed, but media outlets obviously picked up on this story, and then Pete Rose filed a defamation lawsuit against Dowd, which probably wasn't his smartest move, because then they actually got a woman who came forward and submitted her statement in a court, and she said, she had a sexual relationship with Rose, also known as statutory rape, when she was as young as 14.
Oh, my God.
And she said it continued for several years. This was 1973. He would have been 34.
Oh, no.
And he was married with kids.
Gross.
Yeah. So he acknowledged in court that he had sex with her, this teenager. But he believed that she was 16. And I was like, oh, well, that's totally fine then.
So here's grandma, Sonia.
I know, what an old lady. She's too old for even Leonardo DiCaprio today. She's 16 is that's the age of consent in Ohio at the time.
I'm sure he looked that up.
I'm sure he did. And I'm sure everyone showed him a driver's license. It's just fucking gross. He's 34, married with 2 kids at the time, which immediately puts him on my creep list. But even if let's say she was 16, that's a 20-year-old age difference. It's fucking gross. It's gross. And it makes him a creep anyway. But she was not 16. She was 14. And that's illegal. And you just know, creeps like Pete Rose would have sex with girls even younger than that if they could get away with it.
Yeah.
And some of them do. It's
absolutely, and especially in the 70s.
Yes, and it's like the idea of minimum wage. It's like when someone pays you minimum wage, it's like they would pay you less if they legally could.
Yes.
It's like that. They would go lower if they legally could. And they probably do. They just didn't get caught. So, so here's the deal. Because of statute of limitations, nothing could be done.
Right.
Fuck statute of limitations on this. And the defamation lawsuit was settled out of court. By the way, John Dowd sucks too. He would later go on to work for disgraced former President Donald Trump. So he's a piece of shit too. Fuck John Dowd. He's not a hero by any means. Anyone who willingly goes to work for Trump, who's also been credibly accused of sexual assault and rape more than 20 times, fuck them. So nothing came of it, basically. But Fox News was like, we don't, even Fox Sports was like, no thanks. So they fired him. And then last year, Pete Rose launched a new sports betting podcast called Pete Rose Daily Picks. I'm like, he has a gambling addiction.
Oh, man.
Why is he doing this?
Stop.
Come on.
You're an old man. Hold on to the bucks you got.
So then the reason Pete Rose was back in the news, and I was like, ding, ding, let's put him on the list. So last month, that would have been April 2022, depending on when you're listening to this, he went back to Philadelphia because there was going to be a World Series championship celebration for the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies. Why they were just now doing it, I don't know, because it would have been 42 years ago. I get, like, maybe they couldn't do it during COVID, so they're doing it now. I'm not quite sure why.
Philly had a celebration for 1980 World Series?
Yeah, like an anniversary thing. Like, remember when we won the World Series?
So
like
they play Ain't No Stopping Us Now. I lived in Philly at the time. That was the song they played for every fucking thing, like the Eagles and shit. Yeah,
yeah, maybe they did.
Deal when the Phillies won.
Yeah. So prior to the game, to the celebration that they were going to have, multiple reporters asked Pete Rose about the sexual assault allegations.
Good for them.
And yeah, and then, but one reporter just had the nerve to be a chick. So Alex Coffey, she's a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, she brought it up, and he said, "No, I'm not here to talk about that. Sorry about that. It was 55 years ago, babe."
Ugh.
Calls her babe. I'm like, fuck off. And then another reporter kind of jumped in and was like, you know, what do you...
It's 45, dum-dum. Can you not do that?
Asshole. But on top of that, they were like, well, do you think like fans and women view you differently knowing that you did these horrible things, you know, sexually, you know, statutory rape. Yeah. And this is what Pete Rose said. I'm going to tell you one more time. I'm here for the Philly fans and I'm here for my teammates. Okay. I'm here for the Philly organization. Who cares about what happened 50 years ago? You weren't even born. You shouldn't be talking about it because you weren't born. If you don't know a damn thing about it, you don't talk about it.
Yeah, the Civil War happened before I was born, but I'm interested in it.
Also, they're there to celebrate something that happened 42 years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
who gives a shit?
You're there. Yeah, fuck off. So let me guess. Like, we could talk about this thing that happened 42 years ago, which is you winning a World Series, but we can't talk about something that happened 50 years ago because it's looks bad for you. I'm like, Pete Rose can fuck off.
Wow.
He's a creep. So the reporter, Coffey, said that after the ceremony, Rose offered to sign 1,000 baseballs for her. And then offered this like half-hearted bullshit apology to her. He just sucks. Yeah. He's just a garbage person. I do want to mention that, he has been married a couple of times. The first one,
he's a heartthrob.
He's such a. He's. I don't get it. Look, I know we don't want to look shame people, but he's not my type. I'll just say that.
No, I just think his personality sucks.
Yeah. So he was married to this woman named Carolyn. They had 2 children together, and they divorced in 1980. In 1978, a woman filed a paternity suit against him. And it wasn't until like 1996 that he acknowledged that he was the father of that daughter. Like, ooh. Yeah. Then he got married again. This was in 1984 to a woman named Carol. They have 2 children. And then they were divorced in 2011. And shortly after is when he began. He's at this point now 69 years old. 69! And he started dating this woman named, I think it's pronounced Kina. Mm-hmm. It's like, and she's a Playboy model. She was 30 years old. And I thought you might love
30?
this.
Really?
She was 30 at the time. And
wow.
I was like, also, what an old grandma. So he's 69, she's 30. And they did a reality show in 2013 on TLC. So you know it's good.
Lots of learning there.
Yeah, and it was called Pete Rose Hits and Misses. Oy. Like MRS.
Yikes.
It was canceled after 4 episodes. Your show was so shitty that even TLC didn't want it. That's how bad it is.
90 Day Fiance for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally have shows where you can like watch other people watch reality shows.
Yes.
And they're like, boring.
They had Smothered, which is a show about mothers and daughters that have too close of a relationship.
But they couldn't. They took 4 episodes of Pete Rose's hit and misses, and they were like, hard pass.
Yeah.
So that's our creep, Pete Rose.
Oh my God, what an asshole.
He's a total asshole. He's an asshole creep.
Oh my God, Sonia.
He's yucky, right?
Yeah, he's pretty gross.
Blech.
All right, well, thank you for your service. Let's take a quick break, and then we will talk about this week's non-creep. Sonia.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Jackie Robinson?
Not at all.
I know.
Who's that?
Jack Roosevelt Robinson. Middle name Roosevelt because he was named for Teddy Roosevelt. Very famous Republican president. Because
Oh, we need to do an episode on him.
Because the Republicans used to be the party for anti-slavery and for progress, actually. And the Democrats were huge assholes. Yes. So
Weird.
It's very, very weird how things change in life. But anyway, he's the first African-American baseball player to play in the MLB.
What's that?
That's the 20th. In the 20th century. It's so hard to talk about this because it's so fucking unreal.
It is.
It's very unreal. So baseball started in America in the late 1800s, like mid 1800s, late 1800s. Nobody knows the exact date, but it's like jazz and hot dogs and baseball. They're very American. They're pastimes. They're things that like we like to say we created and whatever. Jackie Robinson was born 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. His mother was the product of slave parents, and his father was a farmer. His mother convinces his father, who's working for a farmer, to take part in their profits from the land. They had 5 kids, and he was the youngest. He was the baby. He gets money from the farmer, and then his father just takes off with the money. Excuse me. Leaves his mother broke.
That's awful.
It's terrible. So Jackie's mother and her kids go cross country to Los Angeles, and she raises them to be. She works her ass off to get a house and to educate her kids to find their strength and to do what they have to do to make a living. And she earns enough money to get a house and raises these kids there. And she raises them to be very strong. And they think they're going to escape racism by leaving Georgia for LA. LOL. It's just as bad there. It's just not as blatant.
Yes.
As we would say. His older brother actually was a participant in the 1936 Summer Olympics and won a silver medal. This was the Olympics that Adolf Hitler freaked out because we had Black Americans participate and beat his Aryan gods. We kicked their ass.
Yeah. Take that, Hitler.
Fuck off, Hitler. So Jackie had like some big shoes to fill. He was also an athlete. He went to Pasadena Junior College and he lettered in 4 sports.
Damn.
He was great at frickin' everything. And then, but he wasn't into school so much. He eventually picked baseball, and then World War II hit. And I think for our next episode, depends if anything really big happens in the news, but I think we're going to talk about a World War II incident. So just to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But he joins the army, and he is sent to war And so the army was very segregated. I don't know if you've heard about this. So the black troops were segregated amongst each other.
Yeah.
And there was an incident where he was training to go overseas to fight. And he was going up in the ranks. And he went on a bus one day and he ran into a friend of his, a lady friend, who we would say was passing for white. She was very light skinned, but she was black. And he's like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" And the bus driver screams at him,
Oh my
"Don't sit next to that woman. Get to the back of the bus." And he said, "Fuck you. I'm an army soldier, dude.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. This is my friend. I'm going to sit here." And the bus driver pulls over, calls the cops, and the cops come onto the bus and they arrest him. And they take him to jail.
Yeah.
And he's in his full military gear. And he's like, "What are you doing? This is woman is," and the woman's trying to explain, like, "No, we're friends.
Yeah.
What is going on here?"
Just the sight of it. Just the sight of it to like a
Right.
white man, right?
Right. He
Fucked up.
goes on trial and he is acquitted. And then he says,
Nice.
"I want to leave the army because this is bullshit." And they let him leave. His friends actually go overseas and serve, and they serve with valor and all that. He decides to pursue baseball, and he's in the Negro Leagues. And there's a whole thing where he becomes friends with Satchel Paige and all these heroes of his. And then he's picked up by a guy named Branch Rickey, it's Branch Rickey, right? He was the owner of the team. He was the guy that ran baseball, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to break the color barrier. There was somebody who owned baseball, and then he had to fucking die. And then finally Ricky came in and said, "Okay, good. Now we can bring," because these athletes that played in the Negro Leagues were like the best ever.
Yes.
The 1940s, up to the 1940s, you could not get a black athlete to play on these teams.
It's
And-
crazy that was the thing.
And there
like
were baseball statistics that we have that honestly, up until then, shouldn't count. Because if Satchel Paige isn't in there, what does it fucking matter?
right.
You know?
Right. I agree.
It's-
There's multiple episodes about this in Ken Burns' documentary about baseball. He has a
Yes.
whole I think there's 1 or 2 episodes about the Negro League. Fascinating.
Yeah. Shadow ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they are just brilliant players. And so
Yes.
they said to Jackie, because they had to pick somebody that could handle what was going to be thrown at them. And they knew he was arrested and dealt with it before. And also was a fucking phenomenal athlete. Like he was the whole package. He was also in love with a very strong woman. They were dating, and then he went to basic training. And then she got a job, and she would they would write love letters to each other. And she sent him a picture of her at her job. And he's like, "You seem to be doing like you're really independent and stuff. And I don't like that." And she wrote him back and said, "Go pound salt. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do." And she sent her ring back
Damn.
and was like, no, sir.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. And Ricky was like, "Marry this woman, first of all. Like, because you're going to need somebody." And so he first plays in Montreal, and then he comes and he plays for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yes.
And his wife was the only wife allowed to go on the road because he needed somebody
Yeah.
to be with him.
He needed support.
He needed the support. And
Yeah.
there were teammates that wanted to quit because they didn't want to take showers with him. They didn't want to be on the
Yeah.
bus with him. The abuse that he took from the crowd for years
Yeah.
for his career
And he just had to take it.
he had to take it.
It's so fucked up.
It's
like,
incredibly fucked up.
yeah.
And he had to take sort of this pacifist route, which wasn't the way he really took it when he was arrested. I mean, he did tell him to fuck off.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's this whole thing of like, he never said anything. No. He was very angry, but he had to be, because you're the first. He had to be the first. He had to break that barrier. And then others came with him. He is one of the most lauded. He wore his number was 42, and they retired the number 42.
Yeah.
No one can wear it.
Correct. And every year, were you going to talk about this?
Jackie
They have
Robinson Day.
Yes, and everyone wears 42.
Now, it's one day they can all wear it, but like they retired the number because he is such a legend.
Yes.
He was on the Chock full of Nuts board. He did color commentary, which he was the first black man to do that. He was friendly with Martin Luther King in the civil rights movement. He and Malcolm X, not so much. They had, different styles.
There's
just,
there's, so did Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. There's
just different ways of approaching things and different ways of doing things. But he was brilliant. But he took in a lot of anger. He took in a lot of pressure. He took in a lot of bullshit from the world around him. I love one of the things that his wife said about him, and she lived a very long time after him. She only passed away just recently. But she said one of the things she loved about him is that he always wore white shirts because he was proud of his skin color.
Aww.
Right? He died at 53.
Oh, that's so young.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just think about all that crap he lived through.
Yeah.
In a very short amount of time, but just how much anger, how much shit he had.
That's a lot that's a lot to swallow.
It is. And he was a proud man.
Yeah.
And and what did he want to do? He just wanted to play sports.
Yeah.
He just wanted to own a home with his wife. He just wanted to hang out, just wanted to do his own thing, buy his mother a house, just do little things. And it was very challenging, his whole life, and he wanted to be a better man than his father. He didn't want to leave his family behind. He wanted to be. And so that is our not creep this week, Jackie Robinson.
That is an amazing pick. And you did such a good job telling his story.
Thank you.
Has he thought about, he didn't gamble, huh? He didn't, he didn't want to bet on his own team?
No,
weird.
I was shocked though, how young he was when he died.
That's super young. Was it an illness?
Let me see. There was also, he starred in his own movie about his life.
Didn't Joe DiMaggio do that too or something?
DiMaggio.
Was that?
Such a weirdo.
I feel like that's a thing that sometimes people did.
He suffered a heart attack in 1968, and then he had another one in 1972. I guarantee it was from the stress.
For sure it was.
Yeah.
Damn, that's so young.
Yeah.
Such a good pick though.
But he was a fantastic. He played very well under all that stress. People just said, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
The most horrible things while he's trying to play.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yeah.
Some people are the fucking worst.
Yeah. But that's our not creep this week. So that's our show this week. And we also, if you like the sound of our voices, hope you do by this point.
Hope so.
We are going to go do something a little different because we are all about fall now. We're ready for it's gourd season.
It's decorative gourd season, motherfuckers.
So Sonia, what are we going to be covering for Dorking Out next?
We're going to do Little Shop of Horrors.
Woo! I know all the songs. I know all the words to the songs.
Steve Martin in this movie.
So fucking funny.
So fucking funny. I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to rewatch it. It's going to be fun, as always.
Rick Moranis.
Love.
Yeah, it's really great. So that's what we're going to be doing for Dorking Out. Thank you so much. And please, if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon page, or just like us, review us in your favorite apps. Leave a 5-star review if you feel like it.
If you want. Please.
If you have suggestions for creeps and non-creeps, we love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters. Use that on social media or send it to us via an email. Once again, that's whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Once again, also, if you want some stickers, please send us an email. We'll drop them in the mail for you. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram. and the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
You could find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com, and I am on the TikTok at Margot Donahue. Thank you all so much for dropping by. Enjoy the long weekend. Don't gamble.
Don't gamble.
Don't gamble. Stay safe. Don't be a creep.
A creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.